I remember sitting on the park bench, just watching her play. My 7-year-old granddaughter walked over and put her little hand on my knee. She looked up and asked why I was always so tired. It just completely broke my heart because I did not have an answer for her.
That is such a heavy moment to experience, John. And I think so many people watching right now feel a knot in their stomach hearing that. Because that feeling of deep and unshakable fatigue is incredibly common for folks over 60. You try going to bed earlier, but a good night of sleep just does not seem to fix it anymore.
It really does not, Michael. As a nutritionist, I see patients every single day who just accept this exhaustion as a normal part of getting older. But medically speaking, it is often a critical signal that the body's natural repair systems are simply overwhelmed.
And that is exactly why we are all sitting here today. Over the next 25 minutes, we are going to explore a very simple bedtime routine. It is a habit that ancient civilizations swore by for vitality, and modern science is finally starting to understand why.
We are going to show you exactly how one small tweak before bed may actually support your liver and heart health while you sleep.
Exactly. So John, I want to thank you again for being so open with us today. Let us go back to the beginning, before you made this change. Take us inside what a typical morning actually felt like for you back then. Most people think that getting 8 hours of sleep means you wake up feeling refreshed.
You would certainly think so. But for me, it was the exact opposite. I would wake up just feeling incredibly heavy. It was like my mind was still stuck in a thick fog. It took me a solid hour just to feel like I was actually awake. My joints were always stiff in the morning, and my hands and feet always felt cold. It really did not matter what season it was outside. I just chalked it all up to getting older.
That brain fog and running on empty before the day even begins. I think so many people watching right now are nodding their heads. They know exactly what you are talking about, John. Because it is such a silent thing to go through.
It really is a silent struggle. You look perfectly fine on the outside to everyone else. But inside, you just feel like your battery is permanently stuck at 10%.
So what did you try to do about it? Because most folks in your situation do not just sit back and accept feeling that way.
Oh, I tried absolutely everything I could think of. I bought all sorts of expensive vitamin supplements. I religiously took fish oil every single day. I even tried cutting out my morning coffee completely. And let me tell you, that was a very tough week. But nothing seemed to touch that core feeling of fatigue. It was just always there, waiting for me.
If I may jump in here for a second, Michael. Listening to John describe his mornings just breaks my heart. Because what he is describing is actually a classic sign of a body under high oxidative stress.
Wait, can you explain what that means for us? What exactly is oxidative stress doing to the body at night?
Think of it like a car engine that is running way too hot. Your body has natural repair systems that do their best work while you sleep. But when there is too much inflammation, those repair systems are working overtime. They simply cannot keep up with the workload. So you wake up feeling completely exhausted. And that happens because your body was working overtime to manage inflammation all night. I always tell my patients that it is not just in your head. This is a very real physiological state.
Hearing you say that is honestly such a huge relief. For the longest time, I thought I was just losing my drive.
That kind of validation changes everything, doesn't it? It is so important to realize that it is not your fault. So John, you are trying all these different things and nothing is working. There is usually a single moment where it finally hits you. A breaking point where you realize you just cannot continue living like this. For you, it involved your granddaughter. You mentioned a breaking point earlier that involved your granddaughter. Take us to that day at the park.
We were just at the local park on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. She was running around playing tag and just having the time of her life. I tried to keep up with her for maybe 5 minutes. But I just hit a physical wall and had to go sit down on a bench. She stopped playing and walked right over to me. She put her little hand right on my knee. And she looked up with those big eyes and asked why I was always so tired. It just completely broke my heart. Because in that moment I realized it was not just about my health anymore. It was about all the precious moments I was losing with my family.
That is such a powerful and heartbreaking realization. That is the exact moment when the invisible struggle becomes very visible.
Exactly. I could not hide it from her or myself anymore. I knew I was missing out on the absolute best years of being a grandfather.
Dr. Evans, I see you nodding along as John tells his story. How common is it for a patient to reach this kind of emotional wall?
John, I really want to thank you for sharing something so deeply personal. Medically speaking, that emotional breaking point is actually a critical step in the healing process. Your body had likely been sending you physical signals for years. You had the daily fatigue and the morning stiffness. Maybe your lab reports were even showing slowly rising cholesterol or blood pressure. We see those warning signs all the time in clinical practice. But people often just push through the physical discomfort. It is usually the emotional cost that finally forces us to look for a different kind of answer.
That is exactly right. I was willing to live with the achy joints. But I was not willing to let my granddaughter remember me as the grandpa who was always too tired to play.
That shift in perspective changes absolutely everything. So John decided to look outside the usual expensive supplements and quick fixes. He started doing his own research into natural remedies. And that led him to something incredibly simple that most of us already have sitting in our kitchens. But Dr. Evans, this is the key question for you right now. John was doing what he thought was right by trying all those other health trends. What is the fundamental piece of the puzzle that he and millions of others were missing? Why is this one common food so wildly misunderstood by the general public?
It really comes down to how we prepare it before we eat it. We have been conditioned to think of this ingredient strictly as a flavor enhancer for cooking. But its true therapeutic power remains locked away unless you know the specific trigger to release it.
It is amazing to think a solution could be so simple and yet so widely misused. Doctor, let us really break down the science behind this ingredient. What is actually happening inside the body when we use it correctly? And what is the single biggest mistake people make with garlic?
Well, Michael, almost everyone knows that garlic is generally healthy. People have been using it in traditional medicine for thousands of years. But the real benefits actually come from a very specific compound called allicin. And here is the fascinating part that most people completely miss. Allicin does not actually exist inside a whole garlic clove.
Wait, what do you mean it does not exist in there?
It is the truth. A whole clove just contains two separate components sitting in different cells. You have an enzyme and a precursor compound just sitting apart from each other. The only way to create allicin is to physically break the cell walls. You have to crush it, chop it, or chew it to force those two parts to mix.
So just throwing a whole peeled clove into a pot of soup is not doing much?
Medically speaking, it is doing very little.
That is exactly what I used to do for years. I would just swallow small cloves whole like a pill to avoid the strong taste. I thought I was doing my body a huge favor.
You are definitely not alone in doing that, John. But here is the single most important piece of information I can share with everyone today. This is where almost everyone gets it wrong. That delicate enzyme that creates allicin is extremely sensitive to heat. Cooking can significantly reduce its primary active compounds.
Are you serious?
Yes, all those delicious roasted garlic recipes or the garlic you sauté in a pan. You are definitely getting a wonderful flavor for your meal, but you are completely neutralizing most of its natural health properties.
Wow, My wife puts it in every single pasta sauce, thinking it is keeping our hearts healthy.
That is truly shocking to hear. So for decades, most of us have literally been cooking the health benefits right out of our food.
Precisely. By heating it up, you are essentially disarming the soldier before the battle has even begun. If you want to support your natural cleansing processes, it absolutely has to be raw. And it has to be crushed or chopped to activate that chemical reaction.
Okay, my mind is completely blown right now. So we know it must be raw, and it must be activated first. But that leads us directly to the next big question. Why are we supposed to do this at bedtime? What is so incredibly special about the nighttime for our bodies? So we now know that the garlic must be raw and it must be activated. But you specifically recommend doing this at night. Why is bedtime the absolute golden hour for this routine?
I want you to think of your body like a bustling city. During the day, the streets are absolutely packed with traffic. You are digesting food, moving around, and dealing with stress. It is essentially rush hour for all of your internal organs.
That paints a very clear picture. Everyone hates driving in rush hour.
Exactly. But at night, the whole city finally quiets down. The heavy traffic stops. That is exactly when the nighttime cleanup and repair crews come out to do their jobs. Your liver and your circulatory system shift into a deep regeneration mode. They are working hard to clear out the metabolic waste from your busy day.
So if we take this activated garlic during the day, what happens?
It just gets caught up in the rush hour traffic. It gets mixed in with your lunch and all the other digestive processes. But at night, the allicin can circulate through your system without any interference.
So taking it right before bed is basically handing those repair crews their best tools right at the start of their shift.
That is a perfect way to describe it. It gently supports the liver's natural detox pathways. It helps maintain healthy blood flow while the body is already resting. It is all about creating synergy with what your body naturally wants to do anyway.
That makes so much sense to me now. For the longest time, I honestly felt like my body was actively working against me. I felt like it was just breaking down and failing me. But hearing you explain it this way changes everything. It was not failing me. It was just completely overworked and unsupported.
That is a really beautiful realization, John. It is a shift from feeling helpless to actually feeling empowered.
It really is. This nightly routine feels like I am finally working together with my body. But I do have to admit something to both of you. When I first decided to try this, I was extremely worried. Raw garlic has an incredibly strong and harsh taste. I was really nervous about it burning my stomach right before I tried to fall asleep.
That is the perfect elephant in the room to bring up right now. I am sure half the people watching are thinking the exact same thing. Because understanding the science is wonderful. But figuring out how to actually swallow raw garlic comfortably is what makes this a sustainable habit. Dr. Evans, let us get into the exact step-by-step routine. How do we prepare and consume this correctly without feeling uncomfortable? Let us walk everyone at home through this exact process. Imagine it is their very first time trying this routine tonight. How do we prepare and consume this correctly without feeling that harsh burn in the stomach?
It all comes down to 3 very simple but absolutely non-negotiable steps. Step 1 is the selection process. You want to start with a fresh and firm clove of garlic. Please do not use those old soft ones or the ones that have little green sprouts growing out of them. Those tend to be much harder to digest and the taste is overly bitter.
Okay, so freshness really matters here. What is the second step?
Step 2 is activation, and I cannot stress this enough. This is the most critical part of the entire routine. You're going to mince or crush just half a clove of that fresh garlic. And then you must let it sit on the cutting board for at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Wait, you just leave it sitting there out in the open?
Yes, you just leave it alone. This is the exact window of time the enzyme needs to actually create the allicin. If you chop it and swallow it immediately, you skip the chemical reaction. You will lose almost all of the therapeutic benefits.
That is such a tiny detail, but it literally changes absolutely everything.
It really does change the entire biological effect. Now, step 3 is consumption. And you actually have a few options to make this comfortable. The simplest way is to just swallow that minced garlic with a glass of warm water. You can take it almost like you are swallowing a small vitamin. But if you are worried about the strong taste or the heat, I highly recommend mixing it. You can mix that activated garlic with a teaspoon of raw honey or extra virgin olive oil. The fat in the oil or the soothing texture of the honey makes it go down so much smoother.
John, I am really curious how you actually take it every night.
Well, I definitely started with the honey trick at first. That made a huge difference for me in the beginning when I was not used to it. It completely masked that sharp bite of the raw garlic. But honestly, now I am just so used to the routine that I take it straight with water. You do feel a little warmth in your stomach shortly after you take it. But it is not a bad, painful burn at all. It actually just feels kind of active and cleansing.
I love that description, John, but I do want to jump in and add one very important safety note here, especially for anyone trying this for the very first time tonight.
Please do. Safety is our top priority.
You should always take this at least an hour after your last evening meal. If you know you have a sensitive stomach, please do not take it on a completely empty stomach. You want just a little bit of food in your system to prevent any mild irritation while you sleep.
That makes perfect sense. So we have a very clear, safe, and doable routine. But you know exactly what people at home are wondering right now. What about the dreaded garlic breath? And honestly, are those garlic powder capsules a decent shortcut if we are just in a hurry? Let us tackle the biggest elephant in the room right away. We are talking about eating raw garlic right before getting into bed with our partners. What on earth do we do about that dreaded garlic breath?
It is a completely valid concern, and I hear it all the time. Those same sulfuric compounds that provide all the incredible health benefits are exactly what cause the strong smell.
My wife definitely had a few complaints during that first week. She actually asked if I could just take it in the morning instead.
I think a lot of spouses watching are nodding their heads in agreement right now.
Luckily, there are a few very simple tricks to neutralize it. The easiest method is to simply chew on a few fresh parsley leaves right after you swallow the garlic. A fresh mint leaf does the exact same thing. And if you do not have fresh herbs on hand, just drinking a small glass of milk can really help bind those compounds.
The parsley trick works like a charm for me. I just keep a little bundle of it right next to my cutting board now.
That is such a great and practical tip. But let me ask you about the other obvious shortcut that people will want to take. What about all those garlic supplements and pills you see at the pharmacy? It seems so much easier to just pop a capsule and skip the chopping entirely.
It is definitely easier, Michael. But unfortunately, it is far less effective for what we are trying to achieve here.
Really? Even the expensive ones that claim to be odorless?
Yes, especially those ones. You have to remember how allicin is created. The process of drying garlic out to turn it into a stable powder actually destroys most of the allinase enzyme. And without that specific enzyme, your body cannot create active allicin. So you are swallowing a pill that has lost its primary therapeutic trigger.
That is incredibly eye-opening. People spend hundreds of dollars a year on these supplements, thinking they are protecting their health.
I see it in my practice all the time. Supplements have their place for certain things. But for this specific nightly routine, using fresh garlic is by far the most effective way to go.
I can completely back that up from my own experience. I took those garlic pills for years, and my morning fatigue never changed one bit. It was only when I switched to the raw activated clove that the heavy fog actually lifted.
That personal proof really speaks volumes, John. So the takeaway here is no shortcuts if you want the real results. It has to be fresh, it has to be activated, and you take it right before bed. But Dr. Evans, I want to pivot for just a moment here. We have focused a lot on that morning energy and helping the liver clean house overnight. But from what I understand, the benefits of this routine do not just stop there. We are talking about some serious, long-term systemic support.
Oh, the morning energy is really just the tip of the iceberg. When you start consistently supporting your circulatory system like this, the downstream effects are remarkable.
It is incredible how one small habit can create such a cascade of positive effects. Dr. Evans, beyond the nightly repair, what are some of the other ripple effects people like John might notice over time? It is truly incredible how one small habit can create such a cascade of positive effects. Dr. Evans, we have talked a lot about that morning energy and the nightly repair. But what are some of the other ripple effects people like John might notice over time?
Well, Michael, the morning energy is really just the beginning of the story. Think of this nightly ritual as a consistent foundation for your entire cardiovascular system. Allicin has been studied extensively for its ability to support healthy blood pressure. It also plays a role in maintaining healthy cholesterol levels already within a normal range. But beyond the heart, allicin is a powerful antioxidant.
And what does that mean for someone in their 60s or 70s?
It means it helps protect your cells from the oxidative damage that can accelerate aging. By supporting your liver and circulation every night, you are essentially investing in your future self.
So it is not just about feeling better tomorrow morning. It is about protecting your health for the next decade.
I can absolutely speak to that transition. After a few months, I realized I was not just less tired. I just felt lighter. My digestion improved quite a bit. But the real change was my activity level. I have the energy to get down on the floor and play with my grandkids again. I can chase them around the yard without needing to sit on that bench. For me, that is the real prize.
That is deeply moving, John. That is exactly what it is all about. It is about the quality of those years and the people we love. Dr. Evans, it is fascinating that such a small kitchen staple can offer this kind of systemic support.
Nature is often much more powerful than we give it credit for. We just have to know how to use it correctly.
John, Dr. Evans, thank you both for this incredible insight. As we wrap up today, I want to leave everyone watching with a final thought. We need to discuss how to approach this journey with the right mindset. We have covered so much ground today. Before we wrap up, Dr. Evans, what is the one thing you want our viewers to remember?
My final piece of advice is actually very simple. Real health is almost never found in complex or expensive solutions. It is built on small and consistent habits. This nightly garlic ritual is one of the most powerful ways to support your body from the inside out.
And John, as someone who has actually lived this change, what would you say to the person watching right now?
I would say that if you feel the way I used to feel, please just try it. Give it just 2 weeks. You really have nothing to lose except that heavy and tired feeling. I finally feel like I have my energy and my routine back.
That is such a powerful invitation, John. The biggest discovery you can make is that your body has an incredible capacity to repair and restore itself. Your role is simply to work with it instead of against it. Tonight, you have a choice. You can go to bed the same way you always have. Or you can take your first simple step on a completely new path. It does not start with a doctor prescription. It starts with a single clove of garlic and the decision to care for yourself. You are not just getting older, you are getting wiser. Start tonight. Thank you for watching.